Do we want to stay out east, cover Rhode
Let's
Island
do it.
and Jacksonville a little bit
Let's do
here?
it.
All right, fire it up. Get the
Okay,
tactics
we'll get the
boards
board.
going.
It will work better this time, I think. I hope.
All
Here
right,
we
I will
are.
set the table here just by saying what I saw from Rhode Island was a real sense of flow and fluidity and
Mm-hmm.
interchange that wasn't always there for them last season. We talked a lot about Leo Alfonso coming in. We didn't talk a lot about Pity Rodriguez, but that was somebody that clearly Rhode Island felt good coming in, I think, on loan from Lanús in Argentina.
Sure.
And how that manifests itself against a Jacksonville 4-4-2, I found to be really impressive. Rhode Island didn't really get away from the classic way that they want to play, right? It's kind of a 5-2-1-2, but they're keeping the ball on the ground, they're working it around the back. And so you see with what the example we've got going here is, let's say you found Georgia Kuzera at the sideline. You are trying to break down the 4-4-2. Immediately the issue becomes you've got a center mid, a center back, and a right winger on that side of the field. Those are the players that you're going to have to combine against, create overloads progressively and iteratively to get upfield. So if you're Jorge Quezera in the situation we're seeing, you can maybe go back to Nodarse, but you've got the forward option
Mm-hmm.
because Leo Alfonso was so willing to push out and almost become a winger. Zach Harivo often did the same. So that's a triangle in and of itself. It lets you clear one line of the defense. Then you've got this secondary option, right? Because Pity Rodriguez, who's the number 10 in that 5-2-1-2, he's also there. He is moving without the ball, sliding to constantly give you those angles. Meanwhile, on the back end, this team isn't passive. JJ Williams is making sure that he is probing, occupying the center backs, and stopping help from arriving. Even on the far side, Nick Scardino constantly wanted to make himself a threat on the switch. So the layers that you've built in now don't let a team like Jacksonville close down space. And that means that if you are the Quizera in this position, you can climb the ladder, pass and move. You know Harivo and Pitti are going to be making third man runs off the ball. That level of connectivity was a real change for Rhode Island.
And that's the whole reason this works, right? As you can see on the board right now, Dito Armstrong, in theory, should be the one who's kind of responsible for Quizera here, but because he's having to come from a more central location, and all these players are occupied behind the ball. We're talking about Neville, Kuzain, Soto. When you're looking at this on paper, you would say, well, it's marked up 3 for 3, and there's no problem there. The problem is that Quizera effectively gets a pick just because of his positioning and has the capacity to progress the ball down the touchline here, forcing a Harvey Neville to step to him potentially and be in conflict. We talk about trying to put defensive players in conflict with their marking. This is what we're talking about. And I do like, at their best in their title run, a lot of what Rhode Island was doing by way of Noah Fuson, by way of Quizera, was primarily finding ways to, instead of moving the ball through the middle, almost pick the locks from an angle from the outside and not progressing the ball through the pivot, but instead going outside to go inside and do that to access the final third, not cross the ball. It was from a little bit deeper. And this feels like they're maybe getting back to that a little bit. Now they lose their focus and they concede late, and that's problematic. And they probably should have generated more. They were not very good finishing in this game. That being said,
But yeah,
I think that there's something in this, and then the question is just like, okay, does Hugo Bacharach integrate into this in some capacity?
yeah. And that is the big question. How do you build on what already looks like a successful formula? And I should say, Rhode Island only has one goal in this game. It comes off a really bad mistake from Christian Olivares and goal from Jacksonville.
Yeah.
That is not great, and it does raise questions of, is this a paper tiger? For me, what is important coming out of this performance is just the quality Rhode Island brought to the table. They put up 2.53 XG in this game.
Mm-hmm.
That's better than they generated in 29 of their 30 games last year.
Uh-huh.
What more can you say on opening day? Like, that is a great outcome. And you think about Hugo Bacharach coming into the team, Hamdi Diop coming into the team. Suddenly there are new layers of Diop, for instance, being this underlapping center back that can give you a different wrinkle as you're trying to work through the half spaces. I talk every time I mention Hugo Bacharach about his ability to glide through the midfield on the ball and be a connector in that way. I'm not saying Zach Haribo lacks those abilities, but he's a different profile of player. You add Haribo, that Cadillac, or rather, you add a Bacharach and that Cadillac presence through the middle. It's something that most defenses in the USL can't handle, and it just adds to the heft of what Connor Smith is bringing to the table.
So let's maybe get into our favorite point of discourse, and that is the ever divisive what is going on with Noah Fuson. He was the golden playmaker in the league 2 years ago. Last year, something was just wrong. And I can't really put my finger on it. None of us were able to successfully do that. This year, they bring in Leo Alfonso, who is directly duplicative of him. So, what was Alfonso giving Rhode Island in this game that they didn't get out of Fuson last year, and what does that mean?
Yeah, he's giving them lateral movement, constantly drifting essentially from sideline to sideline in a way where Noah Fuson didn't. And Fuson is a player I like, again, assist leader 2 seasons
Mm-hmm.
ago. When you give him particularly transition moments where he can find touches and be the leader of the charge, there are few players in the USL as good. When you are a team like Rhode Island that does prioritize possession, yes, you're striding long, yes, you like the good break, but typically it is possessing through that back three against a fairly set defense. You need a little bit more mobility, that ability to push wide, seek out touches, combine with someone like a Quizera. That isn't Fuson's strong suit. He can do it, but the instinct for him is something different. So Leo Alfonso comes in, and you mentioned this when we talked about him through the preseason. He really isn't going to give you a classic number nine's profile. He got double-digit box touches in this game, but that was because the offense was clicking, because of what he was doing off the
Mm-hmm.
ball, moving wide and being connective. To me, that was the main differentiator that immediately made it make sense of why are you seeking this guy out and what role is he going to play in this system?
He is definitely closer to a striker than Fuson is, but he is closer to being a winger than he is to being a striker on that
Right. Right.
scatter plot axis. Like, that's my assessment of him. We are seeing more and more of this player profile kind of pop up globally in the game right now. I don't know if that's because of how the tactics are shifting to maybe favor a more overload of big bodies in central areas approach. I can't really speak to that, but what I do know is that he is the true and true left forward. He is not a striker. They will use him on paper that way, like you said, but also, as you so beautifully showed, his job is going to have a lot of inclusivity for him to venture all the way out to the touchline and link play. I don't think he's ever going to be a guy who's taking guys on down the wing and serving in crosses. That's also not his game. But he does have the ability to be comfortable in those spaces when he is at least combining with a couple of players in close proximity.
Some numbers for him. He took 15 box touches, and the next closest was JJ Williams with four.
That
Leo
is
Alfonso
so.
on
Wait,
his
I thought you were
debut.
about to give me a number.
Yeah.
Like, these were his numbers in MLS last year. He took
No,
15
like
box touches in this game.
he took 9 shots in the season opener.
So finish is what you're telling me. Please
Finish,
finish.
like, yeah. He and JJ Williams combined for what, 1.3 XG and didn't score on 14 shots. That's not great. But the fact that you are creating that many opportunities already, and again, Jacksonville, we can have the discussion. I'm worried about them. I think they look very poor, but good signs for Rhode Island nonetheless.
They should have gotten bullied a lot worse, just based on the human beings on the field. I think for Jacksonville, they still got bullied, but I thought it was going to be a lot worse.
I just look at them in block, in transition, and I don't see what the defensive identity is. I don't think they have a sense of communication and responsibility. That'll come. Like I
Mm-hmm.
know Motriori and Antonio Gomez haven't got a ton of minutes together. You're still figuring out what's the mix in the midfield. But man, it's the disorganization more than anything that is worrying because we just talked about Brooklyn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn is a new manager or a new club with a fresh group of guys. They look organized. Yes, they gave up 3 goals, but those were hard fought and they had good ideas.
Yep.
I don't know if I can say the same thing about Jacksonville.